Our attention this morning is that of the very depressing situation that has been developing in Acholi land over the last more than a week, but which, as you know, has been fulminating in that area for quite a while. But now there is quite clearly a new crisis. Has been a lot of violence and atrocities have been committed in especially the turbulent area of Apaa in the Amuru district. Now, as you know, this area has been quite disturbed since 2012, when the first violence erupted, which, as you may recall, attracted the visit of the then Minister of Internal Affairs and his delegation, the late General Aronda. And you may recall the response of the local population to that visit, which was quite sobering, scenes that we had not seen in this country. Now, the current crisis seems to have started intriguingly with the visit of another general, this time General Moses Ali, who visited the area around the 31st of May. And I'm sure you know that that conflict has largely hinged or been driven by interests that are projected from Moses Ali's area of Adjumani. So General Ali visited that area on the 31st of May, and on the 4th, in the morning of the 4th of June, hell broke loose when armed people attacked the Acholi communities, ostensibly from the Adjumani area. Now, these attackers were using mainly machetes and arrows and bows. But remarkably, and this is quite important indeed, it was noted that most of the attackers were putting on army jungle boots, although they were in civilian clothes. Now, the attack went on for 3 consecutive days, and in those 3 days, the report that we have so far is that 6 people were confirmed dead, 28 severely injured and admitted in Lacho Hospital. Twelve haven't been accounted for up to now, 142 houses were burnt down. There had been an earlier arson episode where 104 houses had been burnt. So the houses that have been burnt so far are a total of 246. 2 community schools were burnt. Many goats were looted or killed. And again, one intriguing thing is that some of the goats that were killed and left behind, when eaten by dogs, the dogs that ate them died. Yes, so it clearly seems that the goats that were not taken were actually dosed with poison. The fruit trees in the area were cut down, including mangoes and jackfruits, bananas. They were all mowed down. And granaries were destroyed. More than 5,000 people have been displaced from the area. Now, this is quite obviously something grotesque, happening in any of our communities. And sadly, the country seems just to move on as if a disaster of such a magnitude has not happened, which is a worrying sign that our society, the Ugandan society, seems to be numbed by endless atrocities that our society has faced over the years. Now, I've seen pictures of some of those people who were killed with the machetes. I have some of those pictures. And it is, I don't think I am, a conspiracy theorist, but one cannot fail to notice the similarity of the kind of hacking that the bodies of Apaa and the bodies of Kasese exhibit. Very interesting and intriguing similarities in the type of injuries that one sees. In fact, if you put one picture here and another picture here, it's quite intriguing. Now, of course, Kasese is still very fresh in our minds. The blatant atrocities that were committed in Kasese, not just the massacre at the palace, but the atrocities that were committed across the region. And one wonders whether this Kasese thing, therefore, is part of a wider kind of terror campaign that is engrossing our country. I'm sure you are aware of the atrocities that have taken place in South Buganda especially. Again, atrocities perpetuated by machetes in the areas of southern Buganda. And the machete attack in South Buganda was also particularly intriguing because people would be notified that we are actually coming to kill. So everybody would be in the know, including the police and security organs. And in spite of that, on the appointed date, they would actually come and carry out these atrocities. And as you know, we don't have people who have been prosecuted for these atrocities as yet. So there is, it would appear, some kind of a pattern that is emerging, driven by all kinds of circumstances, but with the same kind of end result: chilling fear in our population. We are therefore even alarmed by some of the noises that we are hearing in eastern Uganda, especially between the communities of Japadola and Iteso in the Bukedi sub-region. You may have seen again some notices in the social media warning of similar attacks that may take place any time. Now, the nature of these attacks and the role of the state in them is the point of our most fundamental concern. I've just indicated what is intriguing, what is suspicious in the Apaa attacks. We know what was there in the Kasese attacks. I've just talked about what is intriguing in the South Buganda attacks and other worrying areas. We think that these are, matters of very, very grave concern for all of us as a country. And because of the suspicious nature of the role of the state in all of them, I think it further focuses the country on the need for an independent inquiry into these matters. You remember we had made a similar observation in respect of Kasese, that those who are suspected cannot be the ones to investigate themselves, quite obviously. You cannot ask UPDF and the police to investigate Kasese when they are the accused. So we think that there should be an independent inquiry into all these worrying developments. We are quite obviously extremely saddened and sympathetic to our brothers and sisters' situation in Acholi, and we would like to convey our condolences, our sympathies to the families that have been directly affected, the victims' families, to the community which is suffering a lot of trauma following on the trauma of the war that has not been healed. We demand that all people of goodwill look at the humanitarian assistance that is needed for these communities. Not just the community of Acholi that is highly traumatized, but also the community of Kasese. The support these communities need range from immediate relief, like the relief needed for those more than 5,000 people who are displaced, Mr. Rugunda, on behalf of the NRM junta, went to the areas, went to Acholi the other day, and I am told that they have since delivered 500 bags of food. That is something, considering that they normally do nothing. But a lot more is certainly necessary, because these communities are going to have been displaced for some time and are going to remain in displacement. They are not producing. They cannot produce in the circumstances. So significant emergency humanitarian assistance is quite obviously needed. I think these communities need a lot of inputs to heal them and bring them back to normalcy. One of the things that our country and our communities are not focusing on is dealing with trauma. Part of what we see in our communities is a result of a traumatized society that we are not treating, that we are not healing. Now, even the community schools in those areas were burned down. We need to focus on how to bring up young children who have been traumatized, educate them and heal them from trauma. In the whole of northern Uganda, in Kasese, in areas that have been highly traumatized, that kind of attention is extremely necessary. And so we appeal to all those of good heart, especially the non-governmental organizations that have work in those kinds of areas, to step up and assist. As you know, There is an NGO that we are also supporting to support people who are in trouble, which launched its stores some times back at Kabaka Njagala near Bulange. Citizens Relief Initiative. I also appeal to people who can continue to support that organization to do so, take whatever food or whatever relief item they may have, whether it's clothes, whether it's saucepans, whether it's other household materials that may help these distressed communities. That will be very important. Now, in the case of Apaa, and we are going to have several other Apaas, I believe, what is being used as the springboard for the violence is land conflict. Land conflict. In Apaa, it has now been presented as a tension between communities of the Madi and the Acholi. But that's not true. These communities have lived for ages very harmoniously. There is no animosity, there is no historical animosity between these two communities. So someone is just using this as a springboard to say there is a confusion about these communities. In fact, the 2012 atrocities were committed directly by government, saying that they are evicting people from a game reserve. That was the earlier case in 2012. It was the government directly banning people's homes and saying you are in a game reserve. Now it is being presented more as an inter-tribal or inter-ethnic violence. However, there is no doubt that land is a source of conflict. And we have already demanded that there should be a moratorium on land matters, land conflicts, land dispute. We should put simply a moratorium that people who are demanding or being demanded from halt where they are. No new grants are given on land, large acquisition of land, and that an inquiry is indeed carried out into this question of land. Recently, I guess following our persistent demands for an inquiry, a commission was set up, I believe more to preempt than to deal with the issues, but some kind of commission is moving around. An inquiry, true inquiry, is definitely needed. And if there is any dispute, why should the government now be the ones judging when they have set? Why should they claim to be implementing anything when they themselves think there is a need for an inquiry? If you think there is a need for a national inquiry into land, then first inquire. Don't be involved in any other actions. Hold actions, inquire, let's have recommendations. But as I have said, I don't believe that inquiry is meant to solve the problems, but nonetheless it is there. So there should be a moratorium. We as a country must condemn whoever is involved in these senseless acts of murdering our people, and we must take robust action. We must be mobilized as a country to take robust action against these kinds of happenings.